And that's what the next 6 months of the campaign's for. I think what we've seen in the time that President Obama has been in office and the time that Democrats have basically run Washington is an antipathy toward the private sector and the job creation capacity that only they can provide.
All right, we're going to come back to this with our guests in just a moment. I want to take a moment now to turn to Pennsylvania's Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, Congressman Joe Sestak. Congressman, welcome to Meet the Press.
Good to be
nice
here.
to have you here. You had a very important victory in Pennsylvania, taking on Senator Arlen Specter, the incumbent, and you won. And when you spoke on election night, this is what you said.
This is what democracy looks like. A win for the people. Over the establishment, over the status quo, even over Washington, D.C.
Congressman, you sound like the ultimate outsider. The only problem is you are a congressman. Okay, you were running against the establishment. You voted for TARP, for the bailout. You voted for the president's stimulus plan. You voted for the president's health care plan. Exactly which establishment are you not part of that you're running against?
You know, I had 31 years in the Navy, as you know. When I came to Washington, I was kind of taken aback that that type of accountability that I'd learned from my actions in the U.S. Navy seemed to be absent down here in Washington, D.C. Look, somebody had torpedoed our economy. We were sinking. We had to caulk the holes. We were hemorrhaging jobs. It's not about big government or small government. It's about effective government. Somebody took the referee off the football field up there in Wall Street. They let him play roulette with the savings of the seniors in my district. I sit there, and to Wall Street a market correction now means young couples can't afford to send their children to education. I ran about accountability for one's actions, and I think that's not pretty absent.
Congressman, the question I asked you is, you have supported all the major elements of the Obama agenda.
Yes.
And yet you, in that soundbite, were running as an outsider. Are you not part of the establishment that you are railing against?
Oh, I did vote for those because they were needed. But as John F. Kennedy once said, sometimes the party asks too much. And when they did something that I didn't agree with because it didn't help Pennsylvania working families, I'll stand up to the party. That's what I did. It doesn't mean whether you're part of an establishment or not.
Which element of the Obama agenda that was his priority did you stand up to?
Oh, I did agree. I honestly think that this president has done great, good things, but I don't think we've gone far enough in terms of helping small business. My party has to recognize business is a good word when you have small in front of it. And to give a 15% tax credit to small businesses for every new payroll job that's created, we could, according to the Economic Institute, soak up 5 million of the 8.5 million unemployed in 2.5 years. In short, we need to do even better than what we've done. And as was mentioned earlier, the market's good. There's really good private markets out there. We just need fair rules. And before the rules kind of favored Wall Street, not those in
Would you like to see more tax cuts? Is that what you're suggesting?
For the small businesses, without a question. Look, for far too long, like the Senate did, they literally voted that large corporations that invest in a foreign factory get a tax credit. On Wall Street, they said, forget about any rules up there. Go ahead and gamble. So what I'm for is for effective government. And if there are going to be tax credits, and I do believe in them, they should be where the majority of Pennsylvanians work. The majority of them work in small business. That's the real engine of the economy.
All right, but Congressman, you're a Democrat, and I fully expect that you will campaign for the Obama agenda come the fall. Is that your plan?
I'm campaigning for whatever is needed to take care of the working families of Pennsylvania. I would like President Obama's support, and he said in his phone call to me, yes. But at the end of the day, I ran because I didn't agree with a deal that was made that I didn't think would help Pennsylvania over the next 6 years. I respect the establishment, but when they're wrong, I think you have to stand up and say.
What you stood up to was your opponent, which is not terribly courageous, given that that's what you do in politics. What I'm asking is whether you are an Obama Democrat who supported stimulus, who supported health care, who's with him on all the major elements of his agenda. Are you or are you not an Obama Democrat?
I've always described myself as an independent thinking person who believes in democratic principles. Those are the same principles this president believes in. But if I think they're doing something that isn't right in accordance with the principles of help families of Pennsylvania, I'll stand up just like I did then. I'm a pretty pragmatic guy. You know, I come from the military where everybody has health care, and the dividends that accrue to our nation are immense. We don't even promote you above a certain rating or rank unless you have an education and a associate's college degree. I'd say pretty much those are kind of principles that give dividends to our nation. Imagine a workforce that's healthy and educated that can compete with China and India. That's the kind of focus and Democrat I am.
What job were you offered to stay out of a primary race by the
It was
administration?
interesting. I was asked a question about something that happened months earlier, and I felt I should answer it honestly. And that's all I had to say about it, because anything beyond that gets away from what we just spoke about.
Right.
What are the policies that are really going to
But
help
you
people
campaign
who've
on
been slammed by
transparency.
economy?
It's part of the politics. You talked about standing up to the White House when they fielded a candidate and made a deal with our inspectors. So isn't it in the spirit of transparency, were you offered a job by the administration, and what was it?
I learned, as I mentioned, about that personal accountability in the Navy. I felt I needed to answer that question honestly because I was personally accountable for my role
What's the
in
answer?
the matter.
What's the job you were offered?
But anybody else has to decide for themselves what to say upon their role. And that's their responsibility.
Yes or no? Straightforward question. Were you offered a job, and what was the job?
I was offered a job, and I answered that.
You said no, you wouldn't take the job. Was
Right.
it the
And I
Secretary
also
of the
said,
Navy?
look, I'm
Was it
getting
the
in this-
Secretary of the Navy job?
Anything that goes beyond that is for others to talk about.
Let me just take the last couple of minutes to talk about some elements of how you'll campaign. What specifically would you advise the president to do with regard to tackling the debt? What painful choice would you advocate as a United States Senator, either on the spending side or the tax side?
There's three major areas. First, pay as you go, which we know President Clinton used to give us 3 budget deficits, was thrown out. And you need to look at your weight to see where you got through, where if you want a new program, you got to cut another program. We have that, but there's too many caveats to that. And we need to do that on the mandatory discretionary side. Right now, we're only looking at the mandatory spending side. Second, health care. The largest increase over the next 50 years in our budget is Medicare, Medicaid. Can we do it? Sure. And as we have 2 programs that are in this new health care bill that begins to reward and incentivize for quality of care, not quantity of care. That is, somebody is, after a heart operation like my father, left after 3 days and they missed that he had a staph infection, just another fee. They weren't penalized.
Can I just
for
get
it.
a very specific
Third,
answer to the
revenues.
question, which is what specific painful choice would you advocate as a United States Senator to deal with the debt?
Close those tax loopholes. All right, carried interest for Wall Street, upwards of $80 billion to $100 billion a year. They get taxed at 15%. $80 billion for tax loopholes for oil companies that literally have record profits. $352 billion a year that's not collected in taxes from small businesses and individuals, 11 corporations. But also, as Secretary Gates, I stood up and said he was right when he said, wait a minute, we don't need the F-22. And I have 2 plants in my district that provided parts for that plane. But what he's trying to do to transform the military is also absolutely needed.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Congressman Sestak, good luck in the fall
Thank you
campaign.
very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Let's turn back now to the senators, the campaign chairs. And